Somebody asked me to do a detailed description of creativity, what a post-racial creativity would look like. Creativity is the religion that was created by Mr. Ben Clausen, Pontifex Maximus, as he was called, particularly in regards to race. I do not have time to do one video that would be detailed regarding the actual what a post-racial creativity would look like. After all, Ben Clausen wrote, 21 volumes, I believe, to outline creativity. The core was the white man's Bible and Nature's Eternal Religion. Nature's Eternal Religion was first, followed by the white man's Bible. Both excellent books, and everyone, regardless of your race, should read the white man's Bible and Nature's Eternal Religion. Okay, so, on race. Now, Ben Clausen said that the mixture of races was, quote, unnatural, as did Adolf Hitler. In fact, he kind of robs Hitler's point in Mein Kampf, where Hitler talks about race and race mixing. However, he also contradicts himself in admitting that certain races of man, especially of the white race, subgroupings of the white race, such as the Mediterranean whites, like the Italians, and the Greeks and some of these people, are mixed with non-whites, such as other Mediterranean people. People don't know, since pre-Islamic times, Arabs and whites have mixed with one another in the Mediterranean region, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, Italy, if you remember from my video on why IQ isn't the end-all be-all, I think it was actually why survival trumps IQ is the title I gave it, but what you have to remember, Italy actually has an IQ of 102. And which is kind of odd because some of the more Araby countries have an IQ of the 80s. Okay, as does, okay, so what I'm going to get at is this. Now we know certain things we did not know in the time that Ben Clausen wrote Nature's Eternal Religion or the White Man's Bible. One, modern humans that look like us outside of sub-Saharan Africans would not exist if proto-humans did not breed with Neanderthals and other what we used to think were pre-human hominids. And technically they were. Neanderthals were pre-human hominids. But their genes live on in the non-sub-Saharan African people, in the whites primarily. Okay, so that's one thing we know. And we know that other species do breed with one another. For example, in Yellowstone National Park, they reintroduced wolves to Yellowstone National Park, which bred with coyotes. Now, coyotes are a lean, mean, sneaky little killing machine, and they bred with wolves. This made a super animal, a hybrid of the wolf and the coyote. Now, these were all slaughtered by the forestry department because they're all for racial mixing of people, just not the mixing of animals. So the idea that interspecies breeding is doesn't happen in nature is not true. It's up to natural selection to prove which new species will prevail that come from these unions. As for one of the things that's interesting, and I do wish to point this out, many Scandinavians, and I do wish to make many response videos to this guy that calls himself Thulian Insights. Many Europeans find themselves, especially Scandinavians, find themselves to be some kind of super people. But what's funny is the degree of degeneracy, and Scandinavians, I would say, probably are the whitest white people you will find, okay? But what you need to understand is the degree of degeneracy in Scandinavia. For God's sakes, in Norway, I believe it is, you can now marry animals, okay? Which is a pretty high degree of degeneracy. The degeneracy seems to come from Europe and seems to be the greatest concentrated in Scandinavia, where you have this gender neutrality, trying to raise children as hens, which is a gender-neutral pronoun, and encouraging all sorts of weird sex paranoias and crazy political correctness. It does come from Europe. The American people, we created, and in fact, creativity, if you read Clausen's book and the White Man's Bible, you can check out my playlist. Creativity is the genius of what made America great applied to the white race throughout the world. The white race, though, has declined. And what you will see is that while Scandinavia is degenerate, you see Latin America still retaining its culture. Now, there is a lot of unease in South America, but I would say the greatest white grouping, the greatest subgrouping of the white race, seem to be the Castizos, which are not even 100% white. They're a little bit Native American. But the white people, particularly in Scandinavia and Great Britain, but Great Britain's a little bit mixed at it, but Scandinavia has allowed very many non-whites, but it's not important that they're non-white. They're anti-white, anti-Western civilization invaders have been invited by Scandinavia into Scandinavia. And they then allow this raping and brutalization of their country. And like in America and other white countries, it is the fault of the people that live in these countries. It is not some magical thing. These people from Africa and the Middle East, they didn't get an idea. They didn't wake up one morning and say, we're going to alter the politics of Scandinavia. That came from the Scandinavian people. Just like the bad American politicians, they come from bad American people. Bad American people that get elected to office by stupid American people. So we have to start weighing things out the way they are. But bottom line is, yeah, the race thing, we know things now that Ben Clausen did not know in his time. And a lot of racialists ignore the facts. They ignore the facts of racial mixing. There are no pure white people. And that's something that has been ignored for quite a while, except by Ben Clausen. Quite the contrary. He admitted that many white people are mixed with other non-white people, but it is time for us to stop fighting each other. And even the Romans, the Roman people, which he exemplified, he held them higher than all other white people, were not 100% white. The Romans were pretty mixed up, like many Mediterranean people.